The car backed out of the driveway with mechanical precision, taillights fading down the quiet Denver street. I stood at the upstairs window, watching as Tyler and Vivian disappeared, on their way to visit his cousin in Colorado Springs for the weekend. It was her idea, of course, some fresh air, some space, she'd said with that sweet venom she always coated her words in. I smiled, just slightly, as the street returned to silence. Downstairs, I moved with purpose. The moment their tires left the pavement, I made 2 calls, first to my attorney, second to a locksmith I'd pre-booked under a fake name 3 days ago. Within 45 minutes, every lock in the house had been changed. Deadbolts, doorknobs, garage keypad, all replaced. The old keys they carried? Now nothing more than scrap metal. Next came the security cameras. I mounted them myself, small, discreet, positioned at every entry point. The feed streamed directly to my phone and hard drive. I wasn't taking chances anymore. By the time the sun dipped behind the Rockies, a courier delivered the envelope I'd been waiting for, formal eviction paperwork addressed to Tyler Cooper, non-owner resident, citing evidence of attempted unlawful removal of a deed-holding occupant. It felt surreal, holding those documents in my hand. Legal language, cool and clean. Every word justified. Every sentence earned. I walked through the house, barefoot on the wood floors my grandmother had chosen decades ago, before she'd left the home to me. I passed the hallway where Vivian had hung her own family portraits without asking. The kitchen where she'd insulted my cooking. The couch where she once told my daughter that mommy doesn't understand children the way grandma does. I looked around and breathed, for the first time in over a year, air that belonged to me. This house was mine, always had been. But now, finally, it felt like it again. My name is Madison Cooper. I'm 39 years old, a licensed architect based in Denver, and until recently, I thought marriage meant sacrifice. Compromise. Sharing everything, even when it felt unfair. Especially when it came to family. I met Tyler 12 years ago. He was charming, quick-witted, endlessly agreeable. I thought I'd found someone grounded, someone steady. And for the first few years, I had. We bought a fixer-upper together, or at least, that's what Tyler liked to say. In truth, the house belonged to me. It had been my grandmother's, passed down to me in her will. I never made a big deal of it. We were married, building a life. Titles didn't seem important. When Vivian, Tyler's mother, sold her home after retiring, she asked to stay with us just for a few months until she found something new. I hesitated. We had 2 kids, full schedules, barely enough room. But Tyler reassured me, she's easy. She just needs a little time. I agreed, because that's what I did. I agreed. But a few months became 6, then 9. Then a full year. She never moved out. Instead, she slowly took over. It started subtly, replacing throw pillows with ones from storage. Decluttering for safety. Rearranging our pantry because my system makes more sense. Then came the critiques, my cooking lacked heart, I didn't fold the laundry properly, the children were too soft. She offered backhanded compliments like gifts, you try so hard, I'll give you that. Tyler didn't just tolerate it. He enabled it. Don't be so sensitive, he'd say. She means well. She's just trying to help. When I suggested boundaries, maybe a move-out timeline, or a rental search, he looked at me like I'd insulted his mother. She's my mother, Madison. What do you want me to do, kick her out onto the street? So I compromised. Again. I tried family counseling. We all went. Once. Vivian called the therapist a bitter woman who clearly hated mothers. Tyler shrugged and agreed that it felt like a trap. After that, they refused to return. The pressure crept in like damp beneath floorboards, quiet, steady, and destructive. My house became unfamiliar. The kids stopped asking me for things, started going to Vivian. She rewrote the rhythm of the home, one subtle power play at a time. And Tyler let her. I stopped sleeping in our bedroom after one particularly bad fight, moved to the guest room just to keep the peace. He didn't follow. I remember staring at the ceiling in that cold, unfamiliar bed, realizing something chilling. I was the guest in my own home. The outsider. The one being slowly pushed out. And they weren't even hiding it anymore. It happened on a Wednesday. I was working from home, sketching revisions for a residential client, when I heard their voices. They were in the living room, talking low, just beneath the hum of the central air. I normally wore headphones while working, but something in their tone stopped me. Sharp. Calculated. I moved quietly down the hall and stood just outside the vent that carried sound straight up from below. Their words filtered through in jagged fragments at first, until Vivian's voice cut clear. "She'll be gone next weekend, right? That conference in Santa Fe?" "Yes," Tyler replied. "She leaves Thursday morning." "Perfect," she said, voice like glass. "The lawyer said if you've been living here longer and she's out of the house, even temporarily, it strengthens your claim. We remove her things. Change the locks. If we make it look like she left voluntarily, it complicates her side." I didn't move. Couldn't. Tyler exhaled. "Are you sure we can pull that off?" Vivian chuckled. "Darling, she gave up that house the moment she let me in. She won't fight back. She never does." My fingers gripped the wall. My heart didn't race, it froze. My own husband. My mother-in-law. Plotting to erase me from a home I had lived in longer than either of them. From the very house my grandmother had raised me in. The one with my name, only my name, on the deed. I don't remember how long I stood there, staring at the vent. Maybe a minute. Maybe 5. But when I turned and walked back to my office, something inside me shifted. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to scream. And I damn sure wasn't going to run. I pulled open the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet and took out the envelope labeled Property Docs, 2007. Inside was the original deed. Madison Cooper, sole owner. Inherited. Not community property. Filed before I ever met Tyler. I called my attorney. By the end of that day, I had an action plan. The first step, silence. They wouldn't know I knew. I continued like nothing had changed, kissed the kids goodnight, made dinner, laughed politely at Vivian's terrible wine suggestions. But in the quiet hours after everyone was asleep, I got to work. I backed up all my personal documents and photos to an encrypted drive. I moved my passport, birth certificate, and keepsakes to a locked drawer at my office. I installed 2 discrete security cameras, one in the foyer, one in the hallway. I reset my phone's cloud backup to save everything externally. I was methodical. Precise. Cold, even. Because when your home becomes a battlefield, love has no place. Only strategy. Only survival. I didn't know what the exact day or hour would be. But I was going to be ready. The opportunity came faster than I expected. That Friday, over breakfast, Vivian casually mentioned that Tyler's cousin in Colorado Springs was hosting a small family gathering the following weekend. "We'll go together," she said, as if I wasn't even in the room. "Just the 2 of us. You'll stay here with the kids, right?" Tyler gave me a look that barely masked guilt. "Yeah, Maddie. We'll only be gone 2 nights. You've got work anyway, don't you?" I smiled. "Actually, I might reschedule the Santa Fe trip. Tight deadlines." I sipped my coffee, letting them think they'd won. Enjoy the mountains. They left Saturday morning, Vivian in a cream trench coat, dragging her overstuffed suitcase like she was moving into royalty. Tyler kissed the kids, avoided my eyes, and said, "See you Sunday." I waved from the porch like the perfect wife. The moment their car disappeared down the street, I moved fast. First, the locksmith. He was prompt, professional, didn't ask questions. Within an hour, every lock had been changed, including the garage, side gate, and back door. I added a reinforced deadbolt to the basement entrance, too. Next, the security system technician arrived. New cameras. New codes. Real-time cloud backup. The system was now connected to my phone and routed through a new account, one neither of them had access to. By late afternoon, my attorney had delivered the final step, an official notice of termination of tenancy addressed to Tyler Cooper. It was airtight. I was the sole deed holder, he had no legal claim to the property, and I had video and audio recordings of him conspiring with his mother to wrongfully remove me. By Colorado law, I was well within my rights. The doorbell rang again, a courier this time, documents in hand. Tyler was being formally served with the eviction notice and a list of legal evidence compiled over the past week. I stood in the foyer, barefoot, signed for the envelope, and watched the sun go down with the kind of calm I hadn't felt in years. My home was clean. Quiet. Safe. That night, I cooked dinner with the windows open. My kids laughed in the background as I set out plates. I didn't tell them what was happening. They didn't need to know, not yet. What mattered most was this: for the first time in over a year, the air didn't feel thick with someone else's judgment. I could breathe. The rooms felt like mine again. On Sunday night, just after 9, the doorbell rang. I was already watching through the security feed. Vivian was shouting into the camera. Tyler stood beside her, red-faced and confused. "Madison," she screamed. "Open this door right now." I clicked the microphone icon on my phone and said one word. "No." Tyler stepped forward. "This isn't funny. Let us in." "The locks were changed," I said evenly. "You are no longer residents. You've been formally served. The property is mine, and always has been." "You can't do this," Vivian hissed, spitting into the lens. "This is our house now." I let the silence answer her. 5 minutes later, the police arrived, called by Vivian, no doubt. I stepped out with my paperwork ready. The officers were calm, respectful. They reviewed the deed, the notice, the security footage. One of them turned to Vivian and said, "Ma'am, you and Mr. Cooper will need to vacate the premises. This is not your property." She lost it. Screaming. Flailing. Accusing me of poisoning her son, of destroying their family. She tried to push past the officers, but one gently blocked her path. The doorbell camera caught it all, every bitter, vicious word. Tyler didn't say much. Just stood there, eyes wide, realizing it was over. And this time, I was the one who walked away. Calm. Controlled. Unshaken. Because I didn't need to yell. I had already won. The next morning, the silence in the house felt sacred. The kids were still asleep, the sun casting golden stripes across the hardwood floor as I sat at the kitchen island with my coffee, watching the doorbell footage again, not out of spite, but for clarity. I wanted to remember what truth looked like when it finally stood its ground. Vivian's face, twisted in disbelief. Tyler's silence, hands in his pockets, like a schoolboy caught cheating. The officer calmly explaining, "This is her legal residence. She's the sole owner. You'll need to remove your belongings under supervision." Everything had gone exactly as it should. By mid-afternoon, Tyler texted me. "I just want to talk. Can we meet?" Without her. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded it to my attorney, who advised me to maintain all communication through legal channels from this point forward. We weren't just dissolving a marriage. We were dismantling a strategy. A manipulation. A betrayal wrapped in codependence. Vivian tried to reach me too. Voicemails. Emails. Even a handwritten letter dropped off at my office, full of dramatic flourishes and twisted martyrdom. I only ever wanted to protect my son. You never accepted me. I sacrificed everything for this family. She never mentioned the recordings. Never acknowledged the conversation I overheard through the vent. The proof. The plot. She knew. And she knew I knew. 2 weeks later, the divorce was filed. This time, by me. My attorney moved fast, citing evidence of coercive control, attempted fraudulent eviction, and psychological manipulation in the presence of children. The footage of Vivian's tantrum, coupled with audio clips of the conspiracy, left no room for ambiguity. Tyler's lawyer tried to negotiate. Tried to downplay it all as emotional miscommunication. But the facts didn't bend. The house? Mine. No contest. Custody? Granted to me, with Tyler allowed supervised visitation, conditional on regular therapy. Vivian? Barred from all contact with me and the children via court-issued restraining order. When Tyler protested the visitation terms, the judge asked him directly, "Do you believe your mother's behavior was appropriate around your children?" He hesitated. Then said, "No." It was the first honest thing I'd heard from him in months. That night, I tucked the kids into bed and sat in the study, my grandmother's old armchair beneath the window, the one Vivian once said cluttered the room. I pulled out the deed and the court filings and placed them beside a photo of my grandmother and me on the porch steps. She would have been proud. Not just because I'd protected what she left me, but because I'd protected myself. From now on, no one was walking over me in the name of family. No one was rewriting history while I stood by smiling. That part of my life was over. And I was just getting started. The hardest part wasn't changing the locks or standing in front of a judge. The hardest part was unlearning the habit of making myself small. For years, I had tiptoed through my own home, lowering my voice, biting my tongue, letting things go for peace. But peace built on silence is just another kind of war. And now, with Vivian gone and Tyler out of the house, the air felt honest. The first thing I did was strip the walls bare. Every photo Vivian had replaced. Every floral-framed cross-stitch she'd hung in the hallway. The "Bless This Home" plaque she'd insisted on placing over the mantel. All of it came down. I boxed them carefully, labeled them, and set them in the garage. Not out of pettiness, but because I needed space to remember what my home looked like before it was slowly overwritten. Then I repainted. Soft gray for the living room. Sage green for the kitchen. The kids helped pick out a new color for their bedrooms, sky blue and sunflower yellow. We turned it into a weekend project. Laughed. Ordered pizza. Played music too loud. For the first time in months, our voices filled the house without being followed by a correction or a scold. One night, my daughter asked, "Is Grandma ever coming back?" I paused before answering. "No, sweetie," I said gently. "Not to this house." She nodded. Thought about it. Then asked, "Can we bake cookies again like we used to?" "Yes," I said, smiling. "Every Sunday if you want." And we did. I started new traditions. Quiet ones. Intentional ones. Sunday cookie nights. Friday movie picnics on the living room floor. Saturday mornings gardening in the backyard, just the three of us. Tyler began his mandated therapy. A few weeks in, I received a letter. Handwritten. Apologetic, but not desperate. He admitted to failing me. To enabling her. To choosing comfort over courage. He didn't ask for reconciliation, just forgiveness. I read it twice. Then put it away in a drawer. Not to forget, but to remind myself of how far I'd come. He was trying. For the kids' sake, I allowed supervised visits. The first few were awkward, but he showed up, present, quieter, humbler. It would be a long road. But at least now, it was one I wasn't being forced to walk beside someone who saw me as less than whole. I also met with my financial planner and created a private trust in my children's names, one that included the house. It would go to them, no matter what. No outside claims. No future manipulations. And just like that, I turned a home that had become a battlefield into a sanctuary again. A space where no one plotted behind walls. Where no one questioned my place in it. Where I didn't need permission to breathe. Spring came early that year. The tulips my grandmother planted decades ago pushed through the soil like clockwork, deep red, sun gold, and a soft lavender she used to call moonlight purple. I'd nearly forgotten them. They'd been buried under years of neglect and bad energy, hidden beneath layers of someone else's presence. But they came back. Just like me. It had been 6 months since I changed the locks. 6 months since I stood in the foyer and reclaimed everything that was mine, not just the house, but my voice, my worth, my peace. I didn't talk to Vivian. I didn't need to. The court order kept her away physically, but more importantly, I kept her away emotionally. I no longer carried the weight of pleasing her. That burden was gone. Tyler still attended therapy. He kept his distance, respected boundaries. On weekends, he picked up the kids and brought them back on time, quiet and careful. Sometimes he stayed a little longer, reading to them on the porch or helping with science projects, but he never assumed space that wasn't offered. Once, while dropping the kids off, he stood on the porch and said, "This house feels lighter." "It is," I replied, and gently closed the door behind him. I'd learned by then that forgiveness isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's simply the choice to move forward without vengeance. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't anything. I was free. One Sunday afternoon, the kids and I sat in the backyard surrounded by seed packets and overturned soil. My son tugged on my sleeve. "Mom," he asked, "are we ever going to live somewhere else?" I paused, glancing at the house behind us, sunlight warming the windows, wind chimes singing gently in the breeze. "Maybe someday," I said. "But not because we have to. Only if we want to." He nodded and got back to digging. Later that night, after the dishes were washed and the kids were asleep, I sat in the living room alone. No voices whispering down the hall. No judgment wrapped in silk. Just the soft hum of the heater and the sound of my own breath. I curled into my grandmother's old armchair, a cup of tea in hand, and stared out at the quiet street through the window. No shadows. No tension. Just peace. Because in the end, I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. I didn't win by being louder. I won by lasting longer. And that's how I learned that sometimes, the strongest thing a woman can do is reclaim the space they tried to steal from her, and build something no one else can tear down. And that's how I learned that you don't have to scream to take your power back. You just need to stop asking for permission in your own home. Have you ever had someone try to control your space? Tell me in the comments. Like if this story hit deep. And don't forget to subscribe for more true revenge stories that leave a mark.